Let's try this again. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and I'll try another day. So for those people that are watching later, this is going to be kind of boring. For those people that are watching now, it's a whole lot more fun. This is live video of me working on a head. Ken made it. Good. Vince. David. Hey, Nikki. Larry. Good morning, everybody. I don't know what happened, but I had to restart the thing, and it didn't restart properly, and it just kept going. Anyway. Okay. I had to kick the kids off. Anyway. 20-minute chat session. Good. So yesterday, I got a pretty nasty comment on my video. Something about the video being a waste of time from yesterday. So I don't think the guy really understood that this is a live video and not necessarily a instructional video on how to do something step by step. It's just not that kind of video. So those people that are expecting that, no. Will you learn something? Probably, whether it's from me or any of the guys chatting here. Just look at the comment from yesterday. Well, yeah, I think that it's probably a little bit of a misunderstanding when you go to a video and you click on something you're expecting a certain thing, which is why I replied like I did. But maybe not. Right, it's a get together. It's a bunch of guys hanging out, and I want to have fun with you, and you guys want to have fun with me, and not just me, but the other people that are here. And I think the community is really important, and I'm having fun, and I hope you guys are having fun, and hopefully we can learn something in the process, and get the 660 thing figured out. Not foreign, no. It's a comment on the video. It was not part of the live chat. Right. I don't think that they get it as far as, this is a live chat, not anyway. So I cleaned up the head just a little bit from yesterday, and just to clarify, this saw is mine, it's not Mason's. Mason tests my saws for me, but this was not Mason's saw. Mason does logging here in Connecticut, and not that there's much of a logging industry, but who knows? I know, whatever. But he does logging here in Connecticut. I know that he works for somebody. He doesn't have his own outfit, but he runs saws a lot, and he can wrench on a saw at least good enough to be able to kind of troubleshoot my stuff kind of as he goes, and he doesn't wear out his own stuff while he's using mine, you know? Hey, Tom, you made it. Great. Steve, how are you? David, how are you? Anywho, what I just SMSNC20. Who are you? Welcome. We're hanging out. Just gonna look at this cylinder head and see if we can make it better. So yeah, again, not Mason's saw. This is mine. This is my Chinese 660. Stephen, welcome. And Tom is halfway through the 260 build. Good. Again, Tom, just on your 260 build there, I usually pull the PTO side in first, and also I on a 660 there's play back and forth. On most of the other saws, that I do, like for instance, a 372. There's no positioning the crank, from one side to another. On a 660, there is. I don't know on your 260 whether or not you can, there's such thing as positioning, centering the crank, between the bosses. So I was a little worried as you're pulling it in that video that you would actually pull it in too far and it would rub. Um, but apparently not, so that's great. But I usually pull it if I'm doing those. What I would recommend usually is pull it to the PTO side first. But that's just me. Yeah. So on the 660 here, the basically what I noticed was it was good. It ran good. It tuned fine, but it just didn't have that extra aggressiveness that a 660 probably should, a ported 660 should have. Even a stock 660 should have a level of aggressiveness that's, it's got anger to it. This was good, but it didn't have the anger to it. And what I, basically Mason was noticing was it did get good RPM, but it didn't get beyond that. And possibly if we gave a little more RPM, it would have a little more top end something. It just didn't have that something, to it that just would make the build. And other 660s, even stock Chinese 660s that I've run, were more potent than this one. And this is ported. So Vince had mentioned earlier. Vince had mentioned it might be the coil holding you back. Mason doesn't think so. I don't think so. But it's something to take a look at if we really can't get this figured. So speaking to Larry and Vince, the storm is coming noon-ish today. So I'm hanging out down here in the basement. Nate B, what kind of cylinder? This is actually the Cross MMWS. This is the Mastermind um, pseudo designed Cross head. And these have had a few issues. These have had a few issues, and one of them was that I think that Walt noticed he toasted two cranks. I think the issue was that the base here was off kilter. Now you can have the base of the cylinder head off kilter front to back, like from the intake to the exhaust, without it being too much of an issue. But if you're off sideways and not perpendicular to the bore here, so you have the bores, imagine that's straight up and down. This needs to be perfectly perpendicular this direction to the bore. Otherwise, the crank ends up doing this thing, the piston ends up doing that, and you put extra wear on a crank and you wear it out prematurely. At least that's the theory. So I know Walt had one that he ended up cooking two cranks before he threw out the cylinder. I don't know. He never mic'd it up. So the theory was something's off, get rid of it. But I know that was one issue with the head. The other thing that was the issue with the head was that the roof, I'll try to point to it here. The roof on the exhaust was hanging rings. Here, not down here, right here. As the piston comes down, it was hanging a ring on the roof. So what I do is go and just you hit it with some very fine sandpaper and make sure that that's smooth. And this has not had a problem. This has had gallons of fuel through it and doesn't have that issue. So that's good. And the crank is perfect. Robert Douglas, did you mention the other day you thought you went too far on the blowdown? No, possibly not far enough. The transfers are really open. And Vince, I did do this on the mill. I'm pretty sure I've evened this up on the mill, but the way that I do that, is different than how a lot of people would do it. If you're truing the base to the bore, then what typically people do is they'll actually stick this whole thing in the lathe and they'll mic up the bore so it's perfectly concentric in a lathe, and then you just touch the base and you can mic that up and see how far out it is. That's one way to do it. And it's probably the most common. That's not the way that I do it because I think I don't have great equipment to do that for the lathe. I do have the lathe, at least in my parents' house, but I just don't have great equipment to do that. So I think it's easier, like Vince said, was to actually stick it in the vise on the Bridgeport. And then what you do is you take a piston and you get it in here, and you'll notice that this wiggles a little bit. So you have to shim it with like a little bit of aluminum foil. But once you have it, the piston, you got to imagine that the piston is pretty darn close perpendicular to the bore. Mic that. Make sure this is dead flat. Once that's dead flat, then you can take a, like Vince said, you can take a fly cutter to it and even it off. So, but you can like, if you wiggle it, it's just too much slop. You know, you really don't want that. I mean, it would be too much. But if you shim it with some aluminum foil, which is really thin, you want just a really thin layer of aluminum foil. It firms it right up, makes it nice and even. You want it even, left to right and up and down. Ken, delete that link. Because that's not the link. Anyway, so yeah, you want this up and down. And that's the way that I do it. The more correct way would probably be sticking it in the Bridgeport. Sorry, Matt, can you explain one more time how flywheel crank insert can first lead to scoring on a crank? Okay, so I don't fully understand the question, but let's go back. So a crank is designed to move straight up, basically up and down, right? If you have a cylinder head that's cocked to one side, then the crank is constantly doing this. Or better yet, like this or like that. And that puts extra wear on the big bearing on the crank, and you can end up messing up the crank. So so imagine a crank connecting rod is going up and down, right? And piston's going up and down. If you go to one side or another, that puts extra wear on the big bearing. If you go to this side or that side, it's not as big of a deal. So you can cock a cylinder head front to back without it having necessarily been an issue. But if you do one side or another, that's bad for the crank. Does that answer the question? If you're saying the PTO side first, can delete that link too. You're wrong. That's not the right email address. It's Maddie O as an Olson, not 05. So yeah, okay. Usually I pull the PTO side in first. Just the way that I do it. I know a lot of other guys do it that way. One of the reasons is because the bearing on the PTO side, when you drive it home, usually you're driving the bearing home up against an oiler, right? So then the bearing goes up against the oiler, and you pull the PTO side in, and there's a little bit of a stop on the crank, if you will, that stops the crank just shy of pulling flush with the inner race of the bearing, and just shy of flush with the case boss, essentially. Now you got it, Ken. Thanks. So the other thing is that when you're doing the flywheel side, sometimes there's a little bit more play, if you will, between where, because the bearing gets pulled all the way to the flywheel side. They pull the bearing all the way in until it stops most of the time. And then the crank goes up against the inner race of the bearing. If you pull the crank up against the inner race of the bearing, it's possible there's more slop on that side, so that the crank lobe up ends up against the case boss, and you end up binding with the crank lobe against the case. I was a little bit worried that that would happen in your case. It did not. Everything's fine. So if anybody wants to go see a fun video, go watch Spoon Carving with Tom. Um, yeah, check out. He's got a great review of my tools over on his video page, on his YouTube page. So Spoon Carving with Tom, click it. Check out his video of my the review of my crank tool. It's pretty good. I was just commenting on that. I've got a I got a reply from the doc here on the the wash pattern on the piston. Hang on a second here. Sorry, I'm chatting with the doc on the wash pattern on this. Holy cow! I was into 10 emails. Okay. No, let's go back here to YouTube. Bring you guys back up. Yeah, again, Tom, I don't know. Like on these 660s, if you pull it too far to the PTO side, the crank ends up not being centered. So I don't know on your 260 whether or not you just slap it together and it's fine from either side, or if you need to center the crank or anything like that. So just keep in mind that there are a little bit of issues there, but either way, that has nothing to do with the tools. It has everything to do with planning how you put it together. On a 372, you just jam the bearings both sides and slap it together. PTO side, and then the flywheel side, and you're good. I can do that with a 372, and it's fine. But on some of the other saws, they get a little bit weird. That's all. Larry, what's the goal for the exhaust timing? I had it at 102, and now it's like let's bring it to 99 or 100, somewhere in there. I don't know what the magic number is. The transfers are in the 120 to 122 range, probably. Hey, Paul. Morning. Vince, yes, I tried to even up the transfers. So I tried to even up the transfers. That's what I was doing. I was evening up the transfers, and by doing that, I only ground on one of them. I didn't grind on both of them. So one of the things was the one that I ground on, that particular side is blank. This is not the piston, but that side of the piston effectively is blank. This is a different piston, but there's one side of the piston basically has no wash on it at all. It's clean. And so it's as if there was unburnt fuel coming through there, cleaning that off. So my question to the doc is whether or not that could be the fact that the exhaust was opening funny. So let's look at this. So I ground on this last night, and other than cleaning it up, I did not touch it as far as port work goes. But let's look at this because this is at least a little interesting. So I ground on this yesterday, and I thought I ground it pretty flat. See how it opens on this side first. See how it's still closed. It's closed over here, but it opens here first. And I remember that actually being the case before we took this apart. We saw that. And incidentally, that's the same side that I ground on. You can see how shiny that is down there. That right where I'm pointing, that transfer port is shiny. And that corresponds with the shiny part on the piston. So I don't know whether it's the transfer port that's actually at fault, or maybe the exhaust was flowing there a little bit different. Hey, Harry. So yeah, so this, if you look at this, I've ground too much right here. I need to grind down a little bit more on this side. To make this even, anyway. And possibly just a tad even more in the center, because the center, you don't want the center humped. That's bad. So let's go back to the porting here. I'm going to grind a little bit more on this and see if we can get this a little bit more even, you know. Yeah, the flowing side is the clean one, so it flows effectively too much on that side. So I'm wondering, and Mason's right. I should literally just change one thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to even up the exhaust here and see where that ends us up. The PTO side is flowing too much. All right. Well, just reading what the doc says here. So let me grind on it and see if I can get this a little more even, and then we'll put it back together and see how it runs, you know? And if that doesn't work, then we can try something else. A bit of grease on the tip here. You can use wax or whatever you want on your grinders. Yeah, sometimes the notifications don't work good, Nikki. Been having that issue. Oh, that's even. Look at that. Oh, that's nice. Look at that. Vince, you like that? Let me go back with the sandpaper. Oh yeah, just like in dental school, sure. Is there anybody here that I didn't give a shout out to? Other than Nikki, he doesn't count. Yeah, even if you hit the bell, some people have been having trouble with that, so. Ken, would you send a text to James? Yeah, it should be interesting. Matt. Morning, yo. Morning. What's going on? Yeah, Bob, I'm right with you. But if you can tell Harry how to do the bell thing, that'd be great. Vince is still the grinder, still working good. Don't know what don't know what exactly was wrong, but works fine. Even with the bell, can be 10 minutes late. Yeah, that's or more. Yep. So yeah, the only thing I'm going to change on this saw, really, appreciably, is the exhaust. So we'll see if Mason likes it better. A little extra bevel in the center. Yeah, I need to go back and read that Trappa stuff. I'll go back and read that and see what's really up with it. Just gonna touch it, just kiss it again with this 200 grit here. I'd say that's pretty good. Let me hit this with the Scotch-Brite. Something that'll actually... Good. I'm going to go wash this like crazy. That decomp needed to be clean anyway. That's pretty clean. So, alright. Let's see where the exhaust ends up here. You know what, before we do that, I'm right here, guys. Okay, so, Nikki, I'm going to come back to what you just said. On the underside of the crown. Nikki, I'm gonna come back to it. Okay. Not ignoring you. Was the case welded? I don't think so. See, this bolt is a tiny little fin right here, which makes it basically impossible to put the bolt in unless it's from the side. You have to put this bolt in from the side here. That's annoying. Oh, that's just aluminum foil. That's heat shielding. Alright, now we can look at this and see how we did. It's much more even. Yeah, right where the 350s melt. Yeah. How's that, Vince? Straight now. What were the algorithms you prior to notification? Who knows, Bob? Okay, Nikki, Matt, when we squared the ring to the top edge of the transfer port and the cylinder, are they matching? Yeah, Nikki, I did that. I did do that. So that's like 98 right there. So let's see if that works, you know? Straight now. Okay. You guys are funny. Alright, I think this is good now. Let's gently remove this. Remove the timing wheel. I think the crosshead comes with cabers. I think the crosshead comes standard with cabers. But yeah, these are cabers. So supposedly using a meteor piston, you get better power out of this. I'm not going to. I don't know. I'll clean all this out. The odds of this coming apart again is probably pretty high. So I'm not going to go too crazy on this, cleaning this. Just going to get this reasonably cleaned off. Oh, we're out of focus. Sorry. Thank you. Sorry. Just going to get this cleaned off. Get the head back on. So this was a base gasket delete, so I'm going to do that again. using 1184 like I've been doing in the past. Grime out of here. The burn temp on the underside of the piston crown. There's like, it's clean, Nikki. Under there? Okay, not perfect, but pretty clean. The laser temp on the muffler, just on one side or another. That's an idea. I don't know. Now you guys have just like gone past the realm of where Matteo level of theory, stops. One ring. Blinding us with science. It's too much. Too much science. Too much knowledge. Can't handle it. Steel engineer. Yeah, I'm sure. That's fine. You can laugh what I do. Hopefully I'm learning something. Hopefully you guys are learning something, and hopefully we're all having fun. You know? I mean? Should have a black spot, burnt oil residue from a correct temperature. If it's not, if it's too cold, it's hot, it'd be gray or white. What? Black spot. Where? Where are you talking, Nikki? Because it's completely clean inside the piston. If you're looking inside the piston, it's clean. didn't take out the clips. Got a circlip there. Got a circlip there. Do I have circlips in there? Yeah, so I didn't take out the clips. It's Sunday, the top two teams are playing. Jets and Giants. I'll stay on YouTube. Thanks, Ken. Alright, what do we got here? Just a little bit of blue Loctite. I want this to tack up first, so basically super light coat on the head here. Adirondacks, haven't seen you in a long time. Welcome. Yeah, we're working. I'll let that tack for a minute. It does not need to be a heavy layer here. Well, yeah, Bob, I don't. I've seen. Well, okay. So I used to be into building high-end amplifiers and speakers, and I've met some people that know that can quote you like not just theory but equations backwards and forwards, and it's really hard to follow. It's really, really hard to follow it. Looking at this going, geez, I hope these are the right rings. Okay, I'm good. And if you want to get into that, then that's great. But it's also not me. It's not. It's not. No, no whiteboard. You know, guys, I'm sorry. I've done so much homework in my life. I really don't like all that stuff. I like that the knowledge is available. That's wonderful. Um, and I can appreciate that there are people that are really into it and can quote that stuff backwards and forwards. You know, and I appreciate the engineers. But you're right, Bob. It can get overwhelming, and then you get discouraged. Instead of saying to yourself, "Gee, this is something I need to get and understand," you come to the other conclusion very quickly, which is I just don't need that in my life. Where did I get the star bits? So the star bits I actually got as a pile from eBay, and you can look up like long T27 or 6-inch T27, and you might be able to, or 6-inch Torx, 6-inch Torx, and you might come up with a pile of them like that. Really handy. It was like $18 shipped. It came in that bag. Yeah, you can get them on Amazon. You can get the Weehaw stuff too. I had a Weehaw one. I don't know where it went. It disappeared. It was like $8 just for that one. They get lost, you know. So I may need to take the piston off, and really kind of hoping not, actually. There's the first one. Ha! Okay, good. Alright, so the rings are in. Bring this to bottom dead center. Nice and slow. Okay. Not down yet. Yeah, again, I appreciate the engineers and those guys that think like that. I really do. And I love it that all that stuff is available if you want to take it that far. But if you're a hobbyist, you just might not want to quite take it there. And I'm okay. See, if you're okay with not really mediocrity, but better than stock, that's okay. If you're racing, it's a bit of a different ballgame. If you're out there for having a good time and maybe learning something and kind of slowly backing into it, then hang out with me. The Weehaw top handles are nice, these T handles. Now we do. Make sure we have reasonable squeeze out. We certainly do. Good. Not too much, you just want a little bit. Yeah, that's cool, Vince. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to grind. I should grind off the 102 here. Happen to have brandy new decomp here. Do I use the brandy new decomp? Why not? Decomp is in. Now it's just a matter of putting the whole darn thing back together. Nope, this is a base gasket delete build. Normally, I like to run a gasket. Most of the time, you'll see me run gaskets. It is amazing how far, how far the rings actually come out, you know. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. All right, so we put it back together, you know? Why not, right? Hemostat's a nice tool to have, for sure, if you're doing this type of stuff. Quite stretched there. Okay. Okay. Good. Now it's a little too tight. Impulse line. Has to go on this brass nipple here. There we go. Okay. Pull your rubber intake boot through. This is a nice piece to have as OEM, by the way. It's also like $40 just for the dang intake boot. So something to think about and consider. Sure it's nice and clean in there. Okay. Pull our wires through here. Probably should have done that first. I wonder, can I? Is it easy enough to pull this grommet out? Pull the wires through and put the grommet back? Maybe. Maybe. Let's find out. Spade first. Then the round kill wire. The round copper thing, whatever you want to call it. Kill wire. This tucks in here. And then this rubber grommet goes. It's just the rubber piece. Let me show you guys what I'm doing. It's this rubber piece here that is kind of flopsy, but it goes into that hole there in the case. Fluorine there. Great. Yeah, actually I think I should try to get that rubber piece back in now. looks like it goes pretty much with a screwdriver without too much trouble. Okay. Run the wires. These wires are a little stiffer feeling than the Husky ones. The blue Husky kill wire is nice because it's kind of supple feeling. At least it is the ones they're making now. Spade connector goes on towards the back here. Good. Round copper piece goes in its appropriate spot. Okay. Scrambled eggs. See you guys. Take care, Harry. Take the ring. Put the ring on. Make sure the carburetor goes into the impulse line. That works. So the throttle is attached. Attach your gas line. The line, whatever you call it. Okay, so carburetor is back on there. That seems fine. Now, this part, baffle, I don't know what you call this. That goes on. This way. Right about now is when you find like a circlip or something like that. Hey, Allie. Well, we're putting it back together. It's definitely going. Not going to take much longer here. Don't know where this piece went. Mason. Put the key in. Now that key does have some advance to it. There. You can feel that. Bring it up against the stop. One thing you can do is just give this a light tap to seat it against the crank a little bit. Rotate towards advance and then tighten, yeah. Allie, it's okay. Just watch. You don't want to use the impact to tighten it. You just want to snug it down with the impact. Traveling the USA in an RV. Very cool. Safe travels, buddy. All right. Now we're getting somewhere, huh? £110 inch. No, 111, Ken. Well, this is M10, so you can probably do 20 foot-pounds without too much trouble. I do not know the exact spec. The AV mount goes back. Danny Tractor Man, Pat Doyle. What's going on, buddy? Just putting the 660 back together. Almost there. Now we're just kind of down to doing this and that. So really all I am changing here, all I want to change is that exhaust timing. Still have the gasket on there. There's no deflector on these saws. You got the bearings in the case? Good. Hey, Bear Ghost. Yeah, this is a clone. This has been heavily worked over. So for those guys that don't know the story here, this is a 660 clone that was heavily worked over by me. There's plenty of different parts in here, not just clone parts, but OEM parts. And this is a cross top end. It's a cross modified top end. And, you know, it runs okay, but it wasn't running like great. So the power is okay, but it just didn't have great power. So we've been trying to figure out what the heck caused it to not have great power, you know? So, came to the conclusion that the exhaust was, that the exhaust timing I had set at about 102. I've now brought it down to about 98. And even it out a little bit. So, again, I'm not trying to tighten these with the impact. I just want them in there. I am definitely not a 660 expert. I've only built a few of these. Yes, definitely a kit saw. Most of this is Chinese stuff, but not all of it. You know, things like the drum. It's an Oregon drum. Okay, what else do we need to do here? Gotta put all that together. We're gonna put the starter handle on. Let's put the starter on. Oh, I can't put the starter on until we do the other side. Okay, right. So let's do this. One of those cross took out my main. Yep. See, this one I squared, and it's had a number of gallons on it. So that's not the issue with this particular head. It just is not quite as powerful as even some of the stock 660s. It's not bad. It's got good torque, Tune's nice, but doesn't quite have the juice. So we said, you know, let's alter the port timing and see what happens. Nice, that went on good. Okay. Nope. There. Okay, that's good. Brake band goes on. Little piece here to hold. Just a pin to hold this tight. Pin is in. E-clip goes on here. These have a tendency of flying. Which that one did not. Okay. Okay. And fortunately, I have a nice little tool made by one of my subscribers, the Sarge. He took, this is just a nut driver. What size? 3/16. The nut driver fits right over where this spring is supposed to go. And what you do is you put it on there and just slide it down. Put the spring on. And pull off, and you're good, basically. At least that's the theory. Ta-da! Done. .30 inch pounds. No, it's like 20 foot pounds is okay. I think. I've been using 13 on the M8 stuff for a long time, and I don't have trouble. As long as you don't have any lubrication on the crankshaft itself, where the flywheel mates up with that thing, it's okay. Oh, exactly like brake shoe springs. Oh yeah, rear. Oh, those are devils. Just devils, those are. Yes. While we're at it, make sure stuff is tight. That's tight, but this is not. Okay, tight. Good. Now we can get the starter cover. These are not captured bolts. Some of the Huskies are. These are not. And there's a special spot for the plug here. So you want to make sure you get that lined up, and you're all lined up. All that stuff. Again, not captured bolts, so they will walk out on you. They get lost. I hate these darn covers. Okay. What next? Just put the wrap handle on and see how she goes. May bend this in the vise first. I got a better way to do it. This handle's a wee bit bent. What if I put it in the vise and just tweak it? Yeah, let's do that. Which, unfortunately, means I gotta clear all this stuff off. Because I need my vise. cleaning up. Nothing wrong with cleaning up. How about that? Here. We went down in people, now we're back up to 17. Who's here? Is there anybody here that needs a shout out? That I missed? Anybody that has questions while I'm cleaning up? And by the way, Bob Douglas, I'm completely with you. I don't like torquing things down tight. You know, it worries me. It worries me. But and I don't know the specific spec on the torque bolts. Ken can look all that stuff up. I mean, you can look it up. There are specific specs. I think those are a bit excessive, at least for what we're doing. Again, the disclaimer is this is not a how-to video. It's just how I do things and how I approach things. Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me either, Ken. If the real spec and the steel spec are the same, yeah. Don't know how much better that would be, but find out. Oh, definitely not an OEM wrap. This is a Chinese wrap. I figured. I know the Walt has complained for years that the Chinese handles just bend like crazy. The regular handles. So I figured, well, I'll get a wrap handle, and then it'll be hopefully less. You know, it'll hopefully be stronger. But I think that they constantly bend in the same silly spot, whether it's a wrap handle or not. It's right there. It's just not as sturdy as the highway handles or the OEM. almost done here. Good. Little stuff here. The bar plate back on. Should we see if it pops? I didn't know, guys. Sorry, I ran out of battery. That's terrible. Dope. And I got it to pop and everything. You missed it. Anyway. Sorry to mess up your day. I had switched the power to the other phone, and just because the other phone was getting low also. So I should have set a timer or something. Anyway, this phone doesn't warn me, so shucks. Okay, it pops, it runs. Good enough for now for today. So we're back. Just gonna put the covers on here, and then maybe back to Mason. Who knows? Oh, I forgot this thing. Just a little dust shield. we're back together. Why can I not grab the... Because the hole's off center. Fantastic. I really got to grind that hole down considerably. Great. Guess we can do that. It's got to be down in that way. Yeah, now I can get a tightener to it. A scratch. Done. Okay. When you drop the head, when the head goes, that way, there are things you have to expect to modify. How we doing? What CC? To be honest, I don't know. It's somewhere around 90. I don't know specifically. How's that? Is that what you guys wanted? So on that note, I'd say I'm done for the morning. Holy cow, does this thing oil? Take all the oil out of here. Now you can exit stage right. Yeah. Well, I already popped it, so it's ready to go. It's primed. Anyway, that works. What else? Anything else you guys have? Comments, questions? Otherwise, I will exit stage right and say thank you so much, and everybody have a great morning. It's a runner for sure. Constant oil, no lube. No, it's got a. It's just the. I don't know. It's good. It's just got to drip. The darn thing wants to drip. I don't know why. Don't worry about it. It'll be fine. Just take the oil out of it. You should really be pulling the oil and gas out of all your saws when you're storing them anyway. It's kind of a pain in the neck, but that's probably what you should be doing. I'm going to go. Everybody have a great day. I'm going to go get ready for snow. Ken, get ready for snow. Everybody else out there, get ready for snow except for Nikki and anybody else in the either, New Zealand or those guys. So get ready for snow, and I will catch everybody later. Thanks so much for hanging out. I do appreciate it. And thanks so much for watching. And we missed James on this one. I don't know where he is or what's going on, but I will catch you guys later. Okay? Take care, guys. Thanks so much. Have a great day. Be safe, everybody.